Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to another Pokemon Unite video featuring our brand new tier list for the brand new patch we came out recently with Sylveon. Hopefully you guys are ready for this. Stay tuned. If not, you can skip to the end as everyone always typically does. But if you stay and you watch the tier list, you can actually see my breakdowns, my opinions on why I think these Pokemon are good, why I think these Pokemon are bad necessarily. But again, these are my opinions. Let's see where they end up, guys. Today, we're going to put up the very first Pokemon, which is going to be Zeraora. And he's going to go straight to the S rank. This Pokemon does everything you could possibly want for a carry, potentially. Now, he has damage, he has abilities, he's got gap closers, he's got escapes, he's got overall burst potential, he can actually 1v5 teams. As long as you play him properly, he can actually do it by himself. The Pokemon itself is one of the best junglers in the game still, one of the best lane gankers, he's one of the best bullies in this game that we currently have. Now the thing is, with this Pokemon though, just like some of the other Pokemon on this list, once they get ahead, they're pretty unstoppable. And that doesn't matter whether or not the enemy team is pretty good at this Pokemon or what have you. If you're ahead in levels with Zeraora, that means, guess what? You did well on your squad, right? You got your rotations, you got your objectives. Now you just go ahead and dominate the game. You be a bully. This is what this Pokemon is, especially through all ranks. Like, you can play him from beginning to masters, no problem with Zeraora as long as you're good with this Pokemon. And he doesn't necessarily take a lot of skill, but he does take some awareness. Like, you need to know when bees spawn, you need to know when Dreadnought is up, and everything. You got to be on your rotations, on your objectives at all times, and that's just overall when you're playing the game. But with this Pokemon, you need to realize how much burst damage you can do at every level of the game, and once you capitalize on that, this Pokemon is pretty unstoppable. We're going to go ahead and hop into the next Pokemon here, in my opinion. For, I guess you could say, as a tanking aspect, in my opinion. There's a lot of Pokemon that don't deserve to be in the S rank, but again, this is just me. But we're putting Crustle down in the C rank here. Now you do see him in all ranks, you see Crustle, and he's classified as a defender, right? Personally, I played him, you guys have played him, we've all seen videos on this man. And he doesn't necessarily do anything, you know, when it comes to being a tank. Now, some people view being a tank completely different than I do, opposed to, you know, your neighbor, your best friend, your grandma, what have you. A tank is a Pokemon that soaks up damage, right? But you could argue Gengar can soak up damage, Cramorant can soak up damage. There's only, you know, so much that they can actually, you know, withstand before they, you know, they die. But at the same time, Crustle doesn't necessarily have any crowd control, have any whereabouts to call himself a tank, in my opinion. He's not like Snorlax. He's not like, oh, we got a Mamoswine or what have you. He just brings damage and shields, which is nice, don't get me wrong. Now, there's one thing about Crustle that I do enjoy, that I do think requires a lot more skill when it comes to this Pokemon. Argue his kit is super basic, right? But his ability to move across the map at any point in the game, you can go around scoring at any goal, anytime you feel like it. And 9 out of 10, any Pokemon's not going to catch you, just because of your ability to traverse the map faster than the other Pokemon in the game. So if you're looking as a score shield build, if you're looking as, you know, the attack or shake weight or attack weight on Crustle just being a nuisance, just running around scoring as much as you can, this Pokemon might be for you. But I think he's more so as a bruiser, opposed of being an actual tank. But that's just me. Now when it comes to actual tanks in the game, we have Slowbro, and then we have Snorlax. I personally think Snorlax is always going to be A or S tier, just because he brings so much to the team. He has crowd control, he's got bulkiness, he's got whereabouts. This guy in itself can carry your squad as long as he performs well. He's your front line, he's your main bully. You don't even have to run you don't have to run shield on him. You can run yawn, and essentially you run in there to beat people up. Now, when it comes to jungle, yeah, Snorlax jungles, trust me, and it's really, really, really good. Because as soon as you get flail, yawn, you literally just run in lane when bees spawn, you sleep somebody, then you just beat them up. Like the Pokemon itself with his belly bump, this third auto attack does so much burst damage. Like, even when he's in lane and you guys are fighting for that, what is it, the Corphish in the middle and top lane, 9 out of 10, the enemy team has a Snorlax in that top lane, you're fighting against, what happens? Snorlax gets that. That's theirs. Why? Because he's going to belly bump for majority of the damage, majority of his HP, and you're not going to be able to counterplay that. I think Snorlax in himself, his wall is very, very good at objectives when it comes to choke points for Zapdos. His wall also counters pretty much every Unite move in the entire game. Now what I mean by that is, hypothetically speaking, let's say we're in a 5v5 situation, right? And Snorlax throws up his wall. Just as you're getting ready to Unite move, or as you're trying to Unite move, it can cancel your Unite move and go straight on cooldown. It's happened multiple times, that there's multiple instances on when that can happen. It's like for Cinderace, for example, when Cinderace is in the air getting ready to do his Unite move, if Snorlax bumps him, guess what? Your Unite move's on cooldown. And not a lot of people realize this, but that barrier is very, very devastating to an enemy team. Let alone you can't flash over it, you have a hard time getting around it. He just does so much when it comes to tankiness by himself. Let's go ahead and move on to my boy Gengar. I know I'm biased, but it is what it is. Gengar will be S rank for me. Now, that's just because the Pokemon has been nerfed, right? He got hit with a Hex nerf, Sludge Bomb, what have you. In the beta, this Pokemon's damage was absolutely abysmal. Like, it did absolutely nothing, essentially. Came out of beta, he was deleting whole teams 1v5, no problem. Just go in, Sludge Bomb, and you literally just Hex until somebody dies. And there's not very much counterplay to it. Now, you could argue there's very little counterplay now, but beforehand, on release day, this dude can carry whole teams by himself. No problem. You want to be level 14 when everyone else is level 11? Gengar was your Pokemon. Like, he was so rampant, they had to nerf him. Which makes sense, right? When someone's overpowered. But they nerfed him so bad that they didn't even know what to do with his numbers, in my opinion. Because as soon as they nerfed him, he got bugged, in which his Hex did 0 damage. Like, literally 0 damage. The numbers wouldn't even show up. And then they hotfixed him again, and now he is where he is now. They buffed Shadow Ball to give us something else to try to play with, because no one else was using Shadow Ball. And now, in most people's tier lists, he sits like here. In some people's tier lists, he's even all the way at the bottom. But I think that now that it's been nerfed to where it is now, Shadow Ball has opened up other build paths, other choices for people to play games when it comes to Gengar. Now, at the end of the day, not a lot of people like playing Shadow Ball because it is a skill shot. It's not an instant lock-on like Hex is. You have to aim with Shadow Ball, but it's that hit-and-run playstyle that draws me to it. It's the burst potential with Dream Eater. I think he does a lot for your team, as long as he does his rotations as well, kind of just like Zeraora. Can he get away with carrying a game by himself? Yes. Is that hard? Yes. But at the same time, can other Pokemon also do that better? Some can. Not very many. Gengar is one of those Pokemon that requires I'll say it, you don't have to, a heavy skill gap. Just because his kit. As long as you're not playing Hex and Sludge Bomb, you have a hard time playing Shadow Ball and Dream Eater if you don't know how much damage you can deal, if you don't know what targets to go for. Now, when it comes to Hex and Sludge Bomb, the downside with that ability is as soon as you Sludge Bomb a target, this will happen in all ranks. Everyone gets Sludge Bombed, and you just immediately hit the Hex button. That's how you know it's a bad Gengar player. As soon as you Sludge Bomb a target, and you gotta be like, I gotta go in, and you go in and die, that's how you know it's a bad Gengar player. You have to choose your moments in team fights and choose your targets correctly. You also gotta be wary, because 9 out of 10, everybody's running Buddy Barrier. So if you go in on a low health target, and the enemy support decides to activate her Unite move, guess what's happening? That low health target's getting Buddy Barrier, there's crowd controlling Gengar, and you're getting deleted. This is why I enjoy playing Shadow Ball now. Because, again, you can pick your time and place and who to go on, and the damage output and the burst potential sometimes is a lot faster than people can react to. But that's just me. We're going to hop in. Some of these Pokemon aren't going to get a lot of explanation, because I think a lot of us know how good they are and how good they aren't, to be fair. Like, for example, we don't have Wigglytuff yet, or sorry, Clefable yet, so I mean, she's just here. She's coming, but she's just here for now. So Pokemon that aren't going to get very much introduction right now, just because of where they're placed in the meta. I hate to be like that, but Garchomp, I mean, there's not really much to say about this Pokemon. He just gets... He's not in a good place. Overall, he's just not in a good place. On anyone's tier list, mine included, this is just, like I said, my opinion. I'm sorry if he's your favorite Pokemon, but to climb ranks, Garchomp is not the guy to be playing right now. He got buffed recently, but that's just defensive buff. His damage is still meh. You can kite him so easily, or just walk away from him and ignore him. I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many other Pokemon that you can play if you actually want to win games and climb, other than Garchomp. We're going to go ahead and touch on, let's go ahead and hit the supports for right now. Blissey, personally, I think she's an A tier. I think Eldegoss is also an A tier. Now, before, Eldegoss was also an S rank for a very, very long time for a lot of people, just because of how much she did for her squad, until she got nerfed a little bit, and then it brought her down. But at the same time, the Pokemon itself does so much for your team. She has shields, she has heals, she has ranged abilities, poke, she gives you movement speed. Now, the upside to Blissey, in my opinion, and why I think she's actually an S-rank Pokemon, for me, is because of her ability to soak up damage. You could argue Eldegoss can soak up damage, yes, but the thing is, she's a ranged, Blissey is per se melee, right? So Blissey is always in that fight. She's always there to absorb damage or take damage, whereas Eldegoss kind of stays in the back a little bit, so she's not up in the front line absorbing damage for Pokemon like Cinderace or something like that, for example. Blissey is there. Like, she's your ride or die in that situation. She walks in, she throws her eggs out and heals you to full 9 out of 10. Her Unite move will keep any carry alive, because you got to keep in mind, most supports run Buddy Barrier. So if she Unite moves your carry, you get Buddy Barrier, and then you get her Unite moves benefits, what increases your damage, your movement speed, what have you. She does so much just for her team, for her support healer. Now, when it comes to other supports like Wigglytuff, she doesn't really necessarily need an introduction. Let's be honest. We know what Wigglytuff does. We know what she has been since day one, which she was slept on in the opening of this game. Trust me, she was slept on. But then people realize how much damage her double slap actually does. And it can crit too, by the way, with Scope Lens, in case you guys don't know that. It really crits, and it really does hurt. So you either take, rollout or double slap. You always have her lullaby. She does more for your squad as a tank than some tanks in this game right now. Like more than Crustle, more than Slowbro. Wigglytuff is that necessarily per se tank that a lot of people don't realize, because she's always in the team fight. She's always doing crowd control. She's sleeping you, she's slapping you, she's stunning you. She's doing everything that per se Crustle should be doing, or Slowbro should be doing, but they're not. You know what I mean? And she's just a support. She's not a defender. But you can play her like one, and guess what? You can actually climb ranks, and you can do quite well with her. Her skill cap is not very high. You literally run in there, be annoying with Lullaby. You chase down prime targets inside of a team fight, and you move on. They're necessarily, no one's getting away from you. If you got eject button up, they're still not getting away from you. Your best chance of Pokemon that's possibly can outrun her is Talonflame with flying over walls, and Lucario. Other than that, 9 out of 10 she's catching you. And that's just the way it is. We're going to go ahead and pick up Venusaur. And you know where he belongs. Right, guys? Let's be fair. He's going to A rank. He's not going to go to S rank. We don't have that many S rank Pokemon. When it comes to damage dealers, we just have a few, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to Venusaur, he did get nerfed a little bit. Just a little bit. His Solar Beam was doing way too much damage for what it actually was. You can sit in the back, and you can poke. And just poke and poke. And no one necessarily could touch you. You essentially were a ranged AD carry that had a skill shot nuke. Let's be fair. And it still does a massive amount of damage, but it's been nerfed a little bit, and a lot more Venusaurs nowadays are just running Petal Dance, which is fine at the end of the day. But here's what you don't understand. Petal Dance does damage, yes. Venusaur is a bulky Pokemon. So, in my opinion, instead of building damage on Venusaur, if you're running a Petal Dance build, go full tank. Take one special attack item, like maybe a Shell Bell, give or take, and then you go full tank items. Why? Because Giga Drain in itself will keep you up. So if your bulkiness from your items is already keeping you up, let alone your passive ability, and then you're on top of these tank items with a Giga Drain, you're just going to sit there and self-sustain yourself in team fights, especially when you have a healer on top of you, and you're already doing AoE damage to everybody else. It doesn't sound that great, but when you're sitting there inside of a choke point with Zapdos, when you're sitting there on a goal trying to cap the point, you're doing so much damage, let alone to everybody else around you while you're scoring. Venusaur in himself is pretty hard to get rid of, especially when you get to those points where everyone's like around the same level, give or take, in the game, he's so hard to deal with sometimes. And a lot of people like to overlook him. We're going to take a peek at my opinion when it comes to Machamp. Now, again, this is a Pokemon in which everyone likes to put here. Like the bottom of the barrel, right? I don't necessarily think so. I think he's a B tier, give or take. When you're really good with him, I think he can be an S tier. Only reason why I don't think he's an S tier anymore right now is because they nerfed his Unite move. It doesn't do as much damage as it used to. Now, was it overtuned then? Yes. But at the same time, a lot of people actually played Machamp because how much damage his Unite move could do when it comes to devastating a team. Now, when you're really good with Machamp, I feel you could probably be up here in an A rank. But there's a lot of other A rank Pokemon that might benefit you more to play opposed to Machamp. So for now, we're going to leave him at a B rank. And now, at the end of the day, this Pokemon has two mindsets. You either get bullied out of lane, or you become the aggressor in lane. Because he has an ability called Submission, right? It runs you in, you become unstoppable. And Pokemon that can stop you, technically speaking, would be Slowbro, right? Now, the thing is, with Submission, you run in, you go straight for any Pokemon you want. As soon as you touch that Pokemon, you pick them up and you slam them into your team. As long as your team composition or team you're playing with, whether or not it's randoms or a group setting or what have you, that makes or breaks Machamp. So in other words, if you jump in and you get the right target, and your team focuses that target, what happens? That target dies, right? But if you run in there and you grab Snorlax, for example, you bring Snorlax to your squad, you think Snorlax is going to die? No. Your team is probably going to flame you, per se, for grabbing a tank or a Zeraora, for example, and he just activates his Unite move inside your group. And guess what? He's going to delete a lot of you, to be fair. So as long as you're grabbing the right target, Machamp in himself is fantastic. Like, he gets a run or movement speed buff when he activates Submission, so it's really, really hard to get away from him as is, unless you have dashes or eject buttons up. His Unite move still does chunks of damage. Cross Chop does crit, in case you guys don't know, with Scope Lens. It's fantastic. But I think a lot of people actually play this Pokemon incorrectly. They get bullied out of lane, just like people who play Gardevoir. They get bullied, and then what do they want to do? They want to surrender or go AFK farming Aldinos. As long as you're playing aggressive or you're playing in a correct setting when it comes to being with your team instead of playing by yourself in a lonely corner farming Aldinos, for example, you can outshine a lot of other Pokemon. And then we have Slowbro here. I think Slowbro is a phenomenal tank. I don't think he's the best tank. He's not a Snorlax. But I think he brings a lot of crowd control to your squad. The same thing with your boy here, Mamoswine. I don't think Mamoswine's that great, personally. But I think his passive ability and his, which is, was it Thick Skin or Thick Fur? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Thick Fat, my bad. And then on top of his passive where if he hits you 3 times he can freeze you, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. But in the same sense, I don't think he's as good as Snorlax. And I don't think he necessarily can help you climb. You know what I mean? He can help you climb to a certain point. And then when you get to the when you get into the master rank, I think that really shows a good Mamoswine versus a bad Mamoswine. That's just me. Because you automatically assume that when you're in master's rank, people actually know what they're doing. You'd be 100% wrong. Because you will still sit here and play with brand new players, for example, who, let's say, I don't know, Ninetales came out today, for example. People are all going to rush to play Ninetales, and it's still going to happen at master rank, you know? Just like Mamoswine came out. I think a lot of people probably ranked down or lost a lot of games originally when Mamoswine came out. It's just one of those things where you need a little bit of practice. So when you get to master rank and you realize what Mamoswine can actually do, yes, I think he can be an A rank Pokemon. But right now, I think he's kind of average, to be fair. Blastoise, I don't think he needs an introduction, to be honest with you. I think he's an S rank. We already know what Blastoise does. He can rapid spin. By the way, so this combination is why I put him in S rank with Blissey. If you have a Blissey and a Blastoise lane, if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. Blissey picks up her buff ability, right? It gives you movement speed and damage. You rapid spin, you're already unstoppable. You're sitting here with increased damage and movement speed with rapid spin on. It's phenomenal. It's very, very good when it comes to those duo pairings sometimes. Sometimes these are things people don't think about. But certain abilities, just like Helping Hand on Blastoise, can really make this man do a lot more DPS. And then there are other builds for Blastoise. Some people take Hydro Pump. I enjoy Rapid Spin just because it does damage overall and it makes you unstoppable. His Unite move is kind of like an execute, but not really an execute. It does a burst of damage. It's very good for scoring Zapdos. It's very good for stealing objectives. It does a lot in itself. And I do think Blastoise will carry you from beginner all the way up to master rank. If you enjoy playing tanks, Blastoise and or Snorlax will probably be the one to do so for you. And or Wigglytuff if you count her as a tank. You know, that's just me. Like I said, some Pokemon aren't necessarily going to get that introduction. Charizard's Unite move got nerfed. It kind of got gutted, and I don't know why. They didn't necessarily be like, or they weren't necessarily like explaining it to us why they chose to do it like that. They just, you got a patch, man. They changed the Unite move completely. Now it just automatically picks up the nearest target, and sometimes it's not very good. And my phone's always going off when I'm doing something. Here, I'm sorry about that, guys. But his Unite move automatically picks up the closest target and slams him down, opposed to you breathe fire for a while, then you decide who to pick up. Now it's instant, which sometimes in a team setting, when it comes to 5v5 in the Zapdos pit, can always pick up the wrong target. And I think that throws off a lot of people, let alone his auto attacks, the way they work. It's not like if you're trying to kite away. You're a ranged Pokemon, so you think you can kite a little bit. His auto attacks kind of pull you back into the target, you know what I mean? And I also think that throws off a lot of people, but I also think Charizard's not in a really good spot right now. I think he's in a better spot than Garchomp, just not as strong as he used to be fair. We're going to go ahead and touch up with Ninetales. Used to be an S rank for more than just me, but I think she's been toned down a little bit to probably the A rank, give or take. She will carry you somewhat up the tier list. I think she requires a decent team. She's not necessarily like solo queue friendly, because a lot of people that play in solo queue, they get angry with their team when a team player doesn't do well or what have you. Ninetales isn't that necessarily that carry Pokemon. She is a support-ish carry in my opinion. She does a lot for your team setting, if that makes sense. So if you have, let's say you have Ninetales, you got Eldegoss, maybe you got Slowbro on your team, maybe you have one DPS Pokemon being like a Cinderace, and then maybe a Pikachu, for example. That's 5, right? You got no front line. You could argue Pikachu and his Volt Tackle. You have no front line to protect yourself, necessarily, and Ninetales necessarily is not a frontline character. She is a support damage dealer, to be fair. She brings a lot of crowd control, a lot of stuns and freezes, but she can't necessarily soak up damage. So guess what's going to happen? Your Cinderace is going to die, right? Because no one's there to soak up damage to Cinderace. You got Eldegoss, true, but again, Eldegoss is not a in-your-face Pokemon. She's a ranged support healer. It's just, depending on the team composition that you play Ninetales into, she can either do good or bad. She will carry you, I want to say, up until at least veteran, at least, and then it'll start changing a little bit depending on how good you get with the Pokemon. But hey man, everyone has different opinions. These are just mine, that's all. Now her Unite move, just like Blastoise, can snipe objectives. It doesn't do as much damage as Blastoise's Unite move, but at the same time it does apply Buddy Barrier just like every other Pokemon. So it can be pretty good in that sense. Personally, I like to play Ninetales not as a damage dealer, I like to play her as a support. So I generally take Buddy Barrier, Assault Vest, and the Focus Band, give or take, or maybe one special attack item. But I like to be bulky when I play Ninetales and just bring crowd control to the team. But that's just me. We're going to go ahead and move Mr. Mime. I think Mr. Mime is also a B rank. Some people would argue with that, but I don't think Mr. Mime brings that much to a team, especially when it comes to barriers, just because how barrier works. I think barrier is a hard ability to master, and a lot of newer players I don't think are necessarily going to be drawn into playing Mr. Mime, but eventually they'll pick up Mr. Mime, you know what I mean? Especially when I come to play Pokemon Unite, I don't be like, hey, where's Mr. Mime? I really want to play Mr. Mime. You know what I mean? That's not my mindset. That's not my Pokemon sought after that I want to enjoy. So I think when the newer players pick him up and they try him out for the first time, I think his barriers are a little bit awkward and hard to land sometimes. And I think that's what throws him off for me. But some people may have different opinions. But I don't necessarily think he's going to carry you past Ultra. I think once you get to Ultra ranks, you will find a lot of good really Mr. Mime players that are super good at playing the Pokemon. And they will devastate you with confusion. But up until that point, I don't think you're going to find very much success when it comes to playing Mr. Mime. But hey man, again, that's just me. We're going to hop into Talonflame. I think Talonflame's an A-rank jungler. I don't think he's S-rank, just because his late game is not super strong, especially if you're behind. If you're ahead, Talonflame's phenomenal. I post a lot of videos on Talonflame. I play a lot of Talonflame gameplay. I'm very good with Talonflame, but I'm not as biased as I am with Talonflame versus Gengar. I think Talonflame does counter Gengar in terms of DPS, especially if you're playing Shadow Ball. Even if you're playing Sludge Bomb, all he has to do is fly and land on your face, and then what? Aerial Ace you, and you're pretty much dead in that aspect. But in the same sense, I think Talonflame struggles when he's behind. I think Talonflame has a hard time staying ahead if you're not competent on your damage and your abilities. But if you're very good with Talonflame, I honestly think he could be an S rank, and he is a super good carry for your squad. He's not super good at sniping Zapdos, so keep that in mind, but he is super good at moving Pokemon away from Zapdos, from objectives, from scoring, from Dreadnought with his Unite move. I think Fly is a fantastic ability, same with Brave Bird. They both act as an execute because they do so much burst damage and people don't realize it sometimes. And then we have Pokemon like Greninja, who in the jungle is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic in the jungle. Outside of jungle in lane, typically he doesn't do that good most of the time. At least in my experience, I don't necessarily get really good Greninjas that aren't in the jungle. But when you're in the jungle and you pop off, when you're getting your Bs, when you get that first kill going top lane or bot lane, it snowballs Greninja exponentially. And some people also don't realize that because he gets a surf ability for an execute if he wants to. He can take Water Shuriken if he wants to. The Pokemon does so much DPS outside of the jungle once he gets that first kill with red buff, and he can just carry that lead on from there. I think he's a great Pokemon to pick up in the very beginning of the game and try to get yourself to Master Rank. I think he would definitely do it for you. But I also think he requires a lot of skill, a lot of knowledge. His ability kit is not friendly. It's not beginner friendly, trust me. You can argue he's arranged. All you have to do is poke, right? With Water Shuriken. No. You literally have to know when to go in with Smokescreen, what targets to go after with the Greninja. You have to be in that mindset of whether or not who you can execute in a team fight, when to do it. There's a lot of into windows when it comes to playing Greninja. He's not a pick up and play beginner friendly Pokemon. He does take skill. A lot of skill. And a lot of people don't realize that sometimes. They pick him up and just think, wow, this Pokemon sucks, or wow, I'm not very good, or he's very overpowered for people who actually do play him. Trust me, guys, he will carry you once you get good at playing Greninja. Hands down. Gardevoir? I hate to do it. I really hate to do it. Yeah. I really don't like to do this. You're going to argue that, like, Machamp is better than Gardevoir or what have you. I'm sorry if you hear my dog downstairs. I'm sorry, guys. You're going to argue Machamp is better than Gardevoir? You'd be absolutely incorrect. Gardevoir's going to go for the A rank for me. I would think she would be an S rank in the right hands. But she has a very, very terrible early game. Like, very terrible early game. And the worst part about that is people like to take her in the jungle, which is nothing wrong with it. But when you have Greninja, Talonflame, Gengar, a lot of Lucario, Absol, there's so many other junglers you could play over Gardevoir in the jungle, and people will get upset with you if you try to take her in the jungle just so you have an early, level 5, for example. Now, if you play her in lane, if you fall behind on Gardevoir, if you're not up there trying to get experience, if you're not trying to be aggressive in lane, you can get very bullied. You can get bullied out of lane very easily, and it puts you super far behind. But if you're playing Gardevoir as a Pokemon in lane, I don't care what you gotta do. As long as you're not putting yourself in a bad situation, you need to get up there and get that experience. Because as soon as you get your first evolution, you can go ahead and be as aggressive as you want to be. Because the Pokemon does so much burst damage with Future Sight, with Psyshock. She cleans out whole teams by herself with her Unite move. And get out of that mindset. I want everyone who plays Gardevoir to get out of that mindset where I gotta get 5 people in my Unite move. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Stop. You're not gonna rank up like that. 100% you're not gonna rank up like that. Every time you get to a Dreadnought objective, every time you fight Zapdos, every time you fight Rotom, let's say you're trying to score for the winning goal, throw your Unite move. I don't care if you're getting 3 people, 2 people. That Unite move is game changing and it will win you games. The more you hold it, the less games you will win. And that's just the way it's going to be at the end of the day. We're going to take Absol here. I'm going to put Absol in the C rank. I also hate to do that. You could argue he could be B rank when you're good as Absol, yes. But to be fair, the issue with Absol is he is situational and positional. His damage comes off when you're coming from behind somebody to give you that burst damage, to give you that ow that hurts. Whereas Pokemon like Talonflame, Gengar, and Greninja, Zeraora, their damage is not positional. Their damage is still easily obtained, but at the same time, how you say it, it's not, what's that word I'm looking for, man? It's less consistent, you know what I mean? Whereas Absol's not very consistent versus the other Pokemon. Now, like I said, when you're really good with Absol, sure, you can be up higher in the rank, no problem. Absol still can carry you straight to Masters by himself. Trust me, by himself, because people aren't ready for Absol damage. They don't understand how Absol's kit works sometimes. And it still happens in Masters games, no problem. You can walk out of the jungle at level 5, level 4, level 5. You can crit somebody for all their HP at Bs. The best part about that is, let's say hypothetically speaking, and this happens all the time, you're fighting Greninja in the top lane. You go to gank that lane, and that Greninja, or Froakie, whatever you want to call him, has already used his substitute. Guess what? That's a dead Froakie. And one hit. It literally sometimes is just one hit with Absol with the right items. No problem. And then what happens? You just take that lead, you get to level 13, level 12, what have you, and you just go around and you just poop on every single lane. And this is why, personally, when you're really good with Absol, you could be here, you could be here, or you could be here. I don't necessarily think a low tier Absol is going to be here. You never see an Absol on the bottom of someone's tier list. Not even here. So this would be your average Absol player would be in the B rank, right? And if you're super good, you can reach even higher ranks than that. As you rank up the ladder, you will find other players who also are really good with Absol. And sometimes it's really frustrating when you fight Absol versus Absol. One or the other will get the better of one another. But when you're really good, you can carry games. Just like that. Because the amount of damage that this Pokemon can actually deal is pretty nuts. Especially with Razor Claw now and Scope Lens. You can delete any Pokemon in the game, let alone tanks. Which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it. The burst damage sometimes can reach up to 2700 damage. I've seen my crits for. But again, it all depends on your skill level when it comes to Absol. Not necessarily how good the Pokemon is, it's your skill level. Lucario here. I hate to do that, but I gotta do it. No, Lucario goes straight for the S rank. I don't think Cinderace is an S rank Pokemon, by the way. We'll get into that in a second. Lucario definitely is S rank, especially when it comes to Power Up Punch and or Extreme Speed. I think a lot of people that take Power Up Punch are missing out on Extreme Speed. If you played Yasuo from League of Legends, think about Lucario in that aspect. Except for you can dash multiple times to the same target. And this, when it comes to Pokemon Unite, Extreme Speed makes it super hard to lock down Lucario. You cannot burst Lucario down due to his passive ability gives him a bonus shield. Let alone if you take Buddy Barrier and you activate your Unite move. You're going to kill a lot of enemy Pokemon in that aspect. All of that shield on top of your Extreme Speed, when they can't lock you down, is going to be pretty nuts. I think he's very, very good in his position that he is in, whether that's top lane, bot lane, or in jungle. Why is my Bixie going off right now? Sorry about that, guys. But at the end of the day, Lucario doesn't necessarily have a super high skill cap when it comes to other Pokemon. Like when it comes to Absol, I think Absol is a little bit higher in that aspect. But I think Lucario is friendly when it comes to beginner players. But at the same time, is a high risk, high reward Pokemon and will carry you straight up to Masters games, no problem. Cinderace is top tier for a lot of players. It's not for me and not for a lot of people. Sometimes when I play Cinderace, I feel like I don't do much. But sometimes when I do play him, I feel I do incredible. And that's because he always depends on your team. So when you have front walls or front lines and you have a tank or two tanks or any Pokemon who necessarily should be in front of you inside of a team fight to protect you, you can just go ahead and carry. Because as you attack, you increase your attack speed, increases your crit rate. Depending on your item build for Cinderace, you can just go ahead and delete everybody on the enemy team. That's including tanks. Tanks will take a lot longer to burn through, i.e. Snorlax or Slowbro, even Blastoise, but you can absolutely do it with Cinderace as long as you have a decent team composition. Some people like taking Pyro Ball. over Flame Charge, or Flame Charge over Feint. There's a lot of different build paths you can go with him. I personally think Feint is probably one of the most busted abilities in the game, because you can counter, or you can essentially take 0 damage from all abilities that are coming your way. But hey man, as long as you guys play position when it comes to Cinderace, you have no problem carrying yourself up to a higher rank. And again, once you're in Masters rank, people actually like to group and do objectives. So when you sit here and you play Cinderace in a good position along in those team fights, you will have no problem getting better with Cinderace. But the more you struggle, the more you, how you say, play too passive with this Pokemon. I don't necessarily think that's very, very good in that aspect, because his kit literally wants you to deal damage. The more you deal damage, the more your damage ramps up with Cinderace. Let's dive into the next one here. We're going to take a look at Cramorant. I think Cramorant is a C-rank Pokemon, sadly enough. I think he brings a lot to the team, but I don't think he brings enough to the squad, opposed to other Pokemon who can do his job a little bit better. Because he did get nerfed a little bit. He used to be a little bit higher for a lot of people. I don't see him often anymore, but that's the surprise, because once you see a Pokemon, you understand how to play it or understand how to counter it. But once you don't see a Pokemon that much, it can throw a lot of people off, just like Machamp. You know what I mean? A good Machamp player knows what to do, when to go in, and when not to go in. The same thing with a Cramorant. But I think Cramorant doesn't necessarily have that carry potential unless you're super good with the Pokemon. And I think he has a high skill cap, high reward playstyle. Whereas in the lower ranks, you won't see that often when it comes to Cramorant. Well, that's just me. Pikachu is... we don't need an introduction when it comes to Pikachu, personally. I think he's better than Garchomp, but I don't think he brings too much to the table. He does have a lot of damage, a lot of burst damage sometimes, but at the same time, there's other Pokemon that you can play to be better with, to carry yourself with. I don't think Pikachu's going to carry you to Masters by himself. I don't think so. But in the same sense, if you like the Pokemon, you play that Pokemon. If you want to get better with that Pokemon, you play that Pokemon. Whether or not carrying you up into that rank, I don't think he's the one to do it. Sadly enough, Sylveon. I think Sylveon is going to be an A-rank Pokemon. I don't think she's S-rank. She was S-rank on day one when she first came out. Then they nerfed her damage, like, immediately. And then she becomes here for me. Now, I think her jungle clear is phenomenal. I think her ganking and lane potential is phenomenal. I also have a really, really fun build that I'll be doing with Sylveon here soon. And at the same time, I think her mobility is top-notch. Like, it's absolutely incredible. I think it's on par with Lucario. She's all over the map with Mystic Fire. And the upside to this is she's very beginner friendly, because her abilities don't require you to aim unless you take Hyper Voice, but don't take Hyper Voice. It's not as great as Mystical Fire. It sounds good on paper, but the ability will also put you in a very rough spot when you're trying to chase down the target, and that target moves a certain direction. You can't cancel Hyper Voice. You can't just reposition yourself. Whereas Mystic Fire, you hit the button, you walk in the general direction of the enemy Pokemon, guess what? They take damage. She is a low skill, high reward player or playstyle, and definitely she will actually carry you no problem through beginner ranks, all the way up to whatever rank you're trying to get to. I think she actually still shines in Masters, especially when it comes to a good Sylveon player. But hey, hopefully you guys do enjoy. I'm sorry for the long rants on every single Pokemon. I'm sorry if I put your Pokemon in a bad spot. We'll talk about it in the Discord. It's no problem. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing with that Pokemon. But this is why these are my opinions, right? It's just my thoughts. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This has been Pawseplays. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm gonna head out.